Favor say aye. Aye. Those in favor say no. No. It's the opinion of the chair that the ayes have it and the resolution is agreed to, and without objection the motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
Is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I yield 2 minutes to the gentlelady from the great state of New York, Nicole Malliotakis.
The gentlewoman from New York is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We've heard from my colleagues the reasons why the Representative Omar should be removed from this committee, but I feel like all the reasons have not just yet been stated, which is why I rise to add for the record. We've heard about the comments that were made regarding anti-Semitism and anti-Israeli views, but I rise to add to the record that as a member of the Foreign Affairs Committee, I've sat there and heard the representative actually spew anti-American rhetoric as
When reporters pressed former President Donald Trump for his reaction to Representative Ilhan Omar's censure, his response came fast and without restraint. He argued that censure alone wasn't enough, that Omar should face impeachment for what he called an unacceptable record in Congress. Trump questioned how someone who had once fled a nation marked by war and corruption could stand before Americans and condemn the country that gave her refuge and opportunity. His remarks landed like a shockwave. Supporters praised his blunt honesty, while critics accused him of going too far. Still, Trump's tone made his feelings unmistakable. He believed Omar had crossed moral and civic lines that no public servant should. He spoke not only with frustration, but with a kind of disbelief shared by many Americans who've watched their controversies pile up in Washington. Inside the House chamber, tension built like static before a storm. Lawmakers whispered across the aisle as the Speaker prepared to call the vote on Omar's censure. The debate had dragged for hours, passionate, divided, and personal. When the votes were tallied, gasps cut through the murmurs. The motion had passed. For some, it was a long-awaited act of accountability. For others, a moment of disbelief. Applause and silence mingled in the same breath. What unfolded was more than procedure. It was a declaration that words spoken in Congress still carry weight, and that respect for office remains a duty, not an option.
I've been in that committee room where the representative equates Israel and the United States to Hamas and the Taliban. Absolutely unacceptable for a member of that committee. I've also heard the representative equate that it is the United States' fault that there is turmoil in Venezuela, that is not because of the oppressive socialist and communism that has spread throughout Central and South America, in Venezuela at the hands of the Maduro and Hugo Chavez regimes. That is unacceptable. And as a New York representative, to hear the representative belittle, to try to diminish the worst terrorist attack on United States soil on September 11, 2001, as some people did something, that is unacceptable as well. And I hold the same standard for this side of the aisle that I do the other, because when another colleague on my side said something about 9/11, I also voted to have her removed from the Education Committee because I thought that was inappropriate. So I'm being consistent here, and I hope my colleagues will do the same to show that this is about consistency and accountability, because we should not have an individual with those views on the committee that is tasked with representing our country and our Congress to foreign nations.
Standing tall amid that storm was New York Representative Nicole Malliotakis. Her speech was one of the day's most forceful, a pointed rebuke of Omar's past remarks equating the United States and Israel with Hamas and the Taliban, a comparison Malliotakis called reckless and dangerous. Her voice cut to the chamber as she reminded colleagues that such statements dishonor America's allies and distort its values. She drew on her own experience as a New Yorker, someone who still remembers the pain of 9/11, and demanded that moral clarity be restored in public office. Few moments in recent memory have struck as deep a nerve as Omar's infamous phrase about the 9/11 attacks. Some people did something. Malliotakis revisited those words, explaining how deeply they wounded the families who lost loved ones that day. It wasn't only the phrase itself, but the detachment it represented. a seeming unwillingness to connect with the nation's grief. As those memories resurfaced in the chamber, the emotion was palpable. Lawmakers were reminded that public service requires empathy, and forgiveness comes only after accountability, something many still felt Omar hadn't earned.
The gentlelady yields back.
The budget. Whereas Charlie Kirk was a lifelong advocate for freedom of speech, civil political discourse, and the political engagement of youth. Whereas Charlie Kirk was a man of deep faith, a husband and a father to 2 young children. Whereas on September 10th, 2025, Charlie Kirk was assassinated on the campus of Utah Valley University while exercising his First Amendment right to freedom of speech. Whereas on September 11th, 2025, one day after the assassination of Charlie Kirk, Representative Ilhan Omar gave an interview on Zateo's town hall with Mehdi Hassan in which she smeared Charlie Kirk and implied he was to blame for his own murder. Whereas on September 12th, 2025, 2 days after the assassination of Charlie Kirk, Representative Ilhan Omar reposted a video on X, formerly known as Twitter, which disparaged the character of Charlie Kirk and those mourning his death. Whereas the video Representative Ilhan Omar reposted on X states Charlie Kirk is dead, and before the body got cold, the far right propped his corpse up.
When the House resolution against Omar was introduced, it read more like a charge sheet than a political document. It detailed her decision to repost a video mocking conservative activist Charlie Kirk just days after his assassination, an act described as disgraceful and unbecoming of a member of Congress. The resolution called for her immediate removal from committees and formal public censure, arguing that her actions had tarnished the dignity of the House. For many Americans, the resolution was more than bureaucratic language. It was an echo of national frustration. The assassination of Charlie Kirk, a figure who had energized conservative youth and championed free expression, had left the country stunned. While many mourned, Omar's online response felt like a cruel dismissal of that loss. Her post was seen not as political commentary, but as a failure of decency. That moment turned collective grief into outrage, convincing millions that something deeper was broken in political discourse. The debate was no longer about ideology. It was about humanity.
For their holy war. Whereas the video Representative Ilhan Omar reposted on X further states, don't be fooled. These people don't give a single shit about Charlie Kirk. They are just using his death to further their Christo-fascist agenda. Whereas the video Representative Ilhan Omar reposted on X further states Charlie Kirk was a reprehensible human being. He enacted his political agenda by preying on weak-minded people. He took complex socioeconomic issues and simplified them by pointing fingers at outgroups, demonizing those groups, and siccing his massive following on them. Whereas the video Representative Ilhan Omar reposted on X further states Charlie Kirk was a stochastic terrorist, an adamant transphobe. He denied the genocide happening in Palestine. He believed the subjugation of women, and in his last dying words, he was spewing racist dog whistles. Whereas the video Representative Ilhan Omar reposted on X further states, Charlie Kirk was Dr. Frankenstein, and his monster shot him through the neck. Whereas the video Representative Ilhan Omar reposted on X further blames Charlie Kirk for his own murder. Whereas Clause 1 of Rule 13 of the Rules of the House of Representatives provides a member, delegate, resident commissioner, officer, or employee.
The backlash came swiftly and relentlessly. Across social media and television, Omar's remarks became the center of a national storm. Hashtags demanding her resignation trended within hours. Commentators, activists, and ordinary citizens joined a chorus calling for accountability. Even some of her usual allies admitted privately that her behavior had gone too far. Yet Omar remained silent, a silence that many interpreted as arrogance rather than strength. When the final censure vote failed by just one ballot, it became one of the most divisive moments in recent congressional memory. A handful of Republicans broke ranks, siding with Democrats and effectively shielding Omar from full punishment. That single vote turned what could have been a bipartisan stand for integrity into another example of Washington's deep dysfunction. Lawmakers like Chip Roy and Senator John Kennedy voiced frustration afterward, saying that moral courage should never be optional. For many voters, it felt like betrayal. Proof that politics too often wins out over principle. The moment underscored how fractured Congress has become and how difficult it is for truth to rise above partisanship.
Employee of the House shall behave at all times in a manner that shall reflect credibility on the House. Whereas Representative Ilhan Omar's actions in the wake of the assassination of Charlie Kirk are reprehensible and affect the dignity and integrity of the proceedings of the House and do not reflect the credibility on the House. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Representative Ilhan Omar of Minnesota be censured. Representative Ilhan Omar forthwith present herself in the well of the House of Representatives for the pronouncement of censure. Representative Ilhan Omar be censured with the public reading of this resolution by the Speaker, and Representative Ilhan Omar be and is hereby removed from the Committee on Education and Workforce and removed from the Committee on the Budget of the House.
I was going to ask, last week in the Oval Office, I asked you about if Ilhan Omar should be censored. Congress censored her. I just want to get your reaction to that.
They did censor her. When did this happen?
Yesterday.
Yeah, good. I think she's terrible. I think she should be impeached. I think she's terrible. Is she originally from Somalia?
Yes, sir.
So how are they doing this? How's their government? Do they have a president? Do they have a council? Do they have anything? Do they have police? I love these people that come from a place with nothing. Nothing. No anything. And then they tell us how to run our country. No, I think if she got censured, that's great. If she got impeached, that's even better. They impeached me twice for nothing. And they impeached me knowing the Republicans are on my side, so they knew it was just that they impeached me. She should be impeached, and it should happen fast. What she says is out of line. Yeah, go ahead.
As news of potential deportation inquiries spread, Omar's composure began to crack during a live television appearance. Her frustration showed the moment Chip Roy's name was mentioned, the congressman leading the call for her removal. She accused Republicans of attacking her faith and heritage, but her defensive tone only inflamed the outrage. Viewers flooded social platforms, accusing her of evasion and self-victimization instead of accountability. Not long after, Trump weighed in again, repeating that Omar's conduct was disgraceful and that she should face impeachment. He questioned how someone from Somalia, a country still battling poverty and disorder, could lecture the United States on governance. His blunt remarks divided audiences but dominated headlines. Senator John Kennedy followed with more measured tone, saying that America's patience had limits, that elected officials should unite the country, not exploit division. His calm, pointed humor drew wide approval, contrasting Omar's emotional response with his steady composure. In congressional hearings, Chip Roy confronted Omar directly, revisiting her previous comments about U.S. foreign policy. Each time he pressed for clarity, Omar deflected, accusing him of twisting her words. But his firm, methodical questioning exposed how unprepared she was for scrutiny. The exchange went viral, dissected on talk shows and news panels. Kennedy later remarked that emotional outbursts often make accusations appear more credible, a comment many said captured the public mood perfectly. Political analysts split over the spectacle. Some sympathized with Omar, citing the pressure she faces as a Muslim woman in politics, while others argue that leadership demands restraint, not excuses. Roy clarified that his criticism wasn't about where Omar came from, but about what she had done in office, a statement that spread rapidly online as Americans debated what accountability really means. In a later interview, Omar tried to pivot by listing her achievements, but the damage had been done. When a reporter referenced Kennedy's call for honesty in public life, her irritation was visible. The clip, widely shared across X and YouTube, reignited the controversy. Roy's comment, "If Ilhan Omar can't handle scrutiny, she doesn't belong in Congress," became a rallying cry across conservative media. Supporters called it harsh, but many saw it as overdue. Under mounting pressure, Omar released a written statement dismissing the uproar as political theater. The attempt to regain control backfired. Her tone came off defensive, reinforcing Kennedy's earlier warning that accountability starts with owning one's words. Behind the scenes, lawmakers discussed whether her remarks should affect her committee assignments. Roy reportedly urged a formal review, insisting that no member of Congress should be free to make inflammatory comments without consequence. By the week's end, the controversy had outgrown Omar herself. It became a referendum on the state of American politics, a showcase of double standards, selective outrage, and the erosion of moral consistency. Conservatives pointed out that if a Republican had made similar remarks, the media would have called for immediate resignation. Yet Omar's defenders remained mostly silent, deepening the perception of bias. The Ilhan Omar, Charlie Kirk scandal ultimately transcended partisanship. It exposed how easily empathy and integrity can vanish when political power takes center stage. Figures like Chip Roy and John Kennedy reminded Americans that leadership isn't about ideology. It's about honesty, humility, and respect for those you serve. Whether Omar's career survives the storm or not, the debate she sparked will linger as a defining moment in modern politics, a point when the public demanded something simple yet profound: accountability over allegiance, truth over tribalism, and decency over division.